welcome to the Make Gardening Your Side Hustle session, which is part of the Randwick Council's Eco Living Online Festival. And I'd also like to give a really big welcome from Randwick City Council's Mayor, Danny Sept. My name is Julian Lee, and I'm part of Randwick Council's sustainability team. And I'm here today with Darryl Nichols, who is co-founder of Grow It Local, a really fantastic platform for sharing, but basically gardeners like all of us here to get to know each other, to share our knowledge, skills, experience, and even I'd also really like to acknowledge that the people in Randwick City are meeting on the land of the Bidjigal and Gadigal people who occupy the Sydney coast, being the traditional owners of this land, and acknowledge that the traditional owners of the lands where you might be meeting today. I acknowledge and pay my respects to the elders, both past and present, and to the Aboriginal people in attendance today. This is going to be a bit more of an interactive one, especially in the second half. So, we encourage you to talk to us, but also, use that wisely, but feel free to use the chat function as well. I may mute you if there's a bit of background noise at a time that's not working for us. And this session is being recorded. We'll send you a really brief survey afterwards because we'd love to hear what you think about it. And without further ado, over to you. Thanks, Darryl.
Thanks, Julian. G'day, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this session today. Thought it might be good to kick things off if in the chat we could just ask where everyone's dialed in from. I'll kick things off. I'm here from a rainy Bondi Beach, but always great to see where everyone's tuning in from. All right, I'm just going to pull up a slide here. Here we go. So thanks for joining us for this session. When Julian asked me to put together some thoughts for this presentation today, I was super keen to use it as an opportunity to build this new deck. So it's the first time I've ran through this, but
I would say that you need to clearly state your unique
I might just ask everyone to throw themselves on mute. That's cool. Thank you. But yeah, so I've had the good pleasure of working with Julian for just over a year now through the Grow It Local initiative, and it's just so awesome to be here to be able to talk with you today. A little bit of background, I thought, before we jumped into the nuts and bolts of today. My name's Darryl Nichols. I'm one of the co-founders of Garage Sale Trail and Grow It Local. Garage Sale Trail is an idea we started just over 10 years ago. It was in 2010 here in Bondi Beach. And that came to life as very much a local grassroots sort of community-driven initiative that was really all about trying to encourage sustainable living via the idea of encouraging reuse in our communities. And it started as a local sort of concept with, I think we had about 100 garage sales on one weekend back in 2010, and Waverley Council were kind enough to get involved, and it has sort of grown from there into an idea which I think last year was supported by about 140 councils around Australia, and about 430,000 participating Aussies who redistributed or found a new home for, I think it was around about 4.5 million pre-loved items. So absolute hats off to all the Aussies that have got involved and helped make that idea what it is today, and is certainly making a meaningful contribution to helping reduce waste from landfill, and really importantly, bringing our communities together. Every year, it just absolutely inspires our team to hear the stories of all the people that come together through the simple practice of having a garage sale. One of my favorites, before we move on, is an old woman who wrote to us and said one year, I had a great day and I made a bunch of money. The average household that does that makes around, I think it's around $420 through getting involved. And she said, I made a bunch of money. I decluttered a whole lot of stuff and found a home for stuff that might otherwise just have been left sitting in cupboards or have been sent to the tip. But she said that the best thing was that now she could say g'day to her neighbour when she sees her walking down the street in her old set of jeans that she sold her, and so many great stories like that. But really, that's an idea that's principally about reuse. But that's not why we're here today. We're here today to talk to you about this idea of make gardening your side hustle. And that's going to be, I guess I'm going to share with you our thoughts on that through the premise of the Grow It Local initiative. So Grow It Local is a sort of very much community sort of led concept that's really about trying to encourage more people to grow, share and eat locally grown food. We are a community kind of minded organisation. And it's really, really powered by technology, creativity, partnerships or collaboration, and just driving impact. And we sort of are fortunate to be able to use our last 10 years of having built Garage Sale Trail to this new sort of concept, for us anyway. It was founded by, with the support of our three local councils here in the eastern suburbs, Waverley, Woollahra and Randwick councils. The Grow It Local Festival is probably the sort of a nice introduction to the theme for today. So the Grow It Local Festival launched a couple of weeks ago. It was held for the first time last year in communities across Western Australia and the East Coast as a pilot concept. And really the thought was, could we mobilise people with expertise in our local communities? And that's expertise relating to growing, preparing, cooking food, locally grown foods, and to sort of encourage them to share their skills or knowledge with other members of their community and be paid to do so. And I'll run through a couple of examples in a moment of how that played out. But the premise of this year's event is really that it's had to go digital, of course, like many things in the last 6 months. And it has been curated by Paul West from River Cottage Australia, who we're fortunate to work really closely with, and runs from September 1st through to November 30. And really what it is in this current incarnation is weekly live sessions that are set up to help educate and inspire more people to get involved in this such beneficial activity, not just for, I guess, us as individuals, but for our communities and for the planet too. And the response has sort of blown our minds. So we kicked off 2 weeks ago with a session with Paul, and we were hoping to have, I think, about 150 people on the live Zoom, and 500 people signed up, and that was amazing. And last week we stretched it to 550 with Costa, and that capped out too. And yesterday we had a session with our friends at the Diggers Club on elegant edible garden design, and that capped out at 1,000, which was just sort of like, you know, what the hell is happening here? But so good to see so much appetite. There's a quick message that's come in here. Let me just see what it is. I'll just play this for you.
Hi everyone, I'm Paul West, chicken lover and local grower. I heard a little rumour on the grapevine that you're being onboarded into the Grow It Local Festival today, and I just wanted to record a little video and say congratulations on making a fantastic decision to be involved. I've been working really closely with Daz, Em and AV lately to curate the content for the Grow It Local Spring Festival digital edition, and I think you guys are going to be in for a real treat. There's never been so much demand for information about how to grow your own food, especially with the pandemic that's been unfolding. Sorry, off you go. Fly, you beautiful thing. And we want to take advantage of that. We want to make sure that the people who are expressing interest in growing their own food, and being a part of a food growing community, and minimising the amount of food waste that goes to landfill, we want to make sure that they're getting the information that they need. It's going to be awesome. It's never been done before. I'm so stoked to be a part of it. Clive Blazy's going to be doing workshops. Rodney Dunn from the Agrarian Kitchen is going to be doing workshops. Mark LeBroy from the Three Blue Ducks. We've got heaps and heaps of amazing names doing big things for the Grow It Local Spring Festival Digital Edition. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for your support and getting involved. I look forward to hopefully seeing you all in the future. Thanks, everyone. Back to you, Daz.
And at a glance, that may seem a little bit kind of off-piste for today's press, but I wanted to show you that because what's happening with the festival is Grow It Local ourselves. We've curated these sort of one one live event per week. But there's an invitation out to the community, to anyone that's interested in this whole idea of growing or preparing or cooking with locally grown foods, to host your own digital sessions, and they can be monetized through the Grow It Local platform. So there's a few events that are listed up there for October and November that we've curated that are paid events, where the host is, I think it's about an 80-20 split on the income generated there. But there's an absolute, like, the demand for information connected to this space on the back of what's happened to the world in the last 6 months is just off the charts. So if you have any expertise in this area or know people that do, there's a really fantastic opportunity to generate some incremental revenue or some pocket money through hosting a session, and to help inspire more people to be involved in what is such a valuable activity. So to give you a sort of an example of the sorts of stuff that we're curating, so there's a session with Kevin Forty in 2 weeks. I think it's October 3rd, on how to grow giant vegetables at home. Kevin holds several world records for having grown giant vegetables from the UK. He's consulted to Queen Elizabeth II, Prince Charles, as well as to Snoop Dogg. And he's running a session which I think should just be, he's a really impressive, charismatic guy, so that's going to be great. There's on a more grassroots front, there's a session with, probably one of Australia's leading environmental and waste educators, Peg Davies. Peg set up a great grassroots movement throughout right across Perth called Earth Carers. She's an absolute legend in this space. If you asked Costa, who are the top 3 people in waste education or sustainable living education in Australia, Peg would absolutely be on his list. So she's running a spot on how to regrow from food scraps. Both these sessions are free, non-ticketed events. We've got a session with Mark. So Mark's one of the founders of 3 Blue Ducks. He is an absolutely avid fisherman, forager, serious real food philosophy kind of chef. So he's running a session on how to make mind-blowing backyard lobster pasta. That's a $10 ticketed session. I think that got put up on Thursday. I think that's already sold over 100 tickets. And yes, Mark has a profile, but it's not necessarily about the profile of the people that we've learnt with these sessions we've been running, not just for a couple of weeks, but for the last few months. So again, good example there. There's a session coming up with how to make award-winning raspberry jam with the CWA ladies. So that's one of their multi-award-winning recipes. That's a ticketed event. Tickets to that are going particularly well too. And, we're just really super motivated by this idea of intergenerational and intercultural knowledge and skill sharing. So we firmly believe that there is just an insanely big opportunity to connect people within communities that have expertise with those that don't, and to help them on their journey to going further in this space. And examples of that could be, we've had an old Italian nonna, Natalia. She's a 4th generation Sicilian woman. She ran a session on how to make what she considers to be the world's best pesto, and how to grow great basil. And it's just absolutely it's such invaluable knowledge to be sharing. So there's all manner of content that could be delivered here. The November sessions, to give you a feel for it, there's native and indigenous edible session. We've got garden tours at some great spots in Victoria, at Heronswood there. A session with Rodney Dunn in Tassie. So Rodney was the editor of Gourmet Traveller for about 12 years. And now he runs the absolutely awesome Agrarian Kitchen and Eatery in New Norfolk, just on the outskirts of Hobart. Absolute trailblazer in this space. His sessions, he runs workshops down there in Tassie, which is just phenomenal, but they're multiple hundreds of dollars session there. They range from, I think, $300 to maybe about $800 a day. And he's running a really accessible session through the platform, through the festival, and Paul running a bunch of sessions too. So there's some examples of some stuff we're running. I'll run you through some of the more community-led examples in a moment too. I just thought I'd touch on this while we're going through it. We've got an awards program that's a little bit off-piste and off the wall, but it's incorporates a search for the wonkiest vegetable, the longest worm, the best carbon copy dance. Anyone that saw Gardening Australia a couple of weeks ago might be familiar with Costa's new backyard gardening dance he's developed. Best use of upcycling in the garden, most elegant edible garden design, and finally the vegetable that most looks like ... That's being run with ABC radio across the country. Entry for all these is just by hashtag Grow It Local Awards. So yeah, if that's something of interest, please do get involved there. But that's really just a bit of background. Today is really about exploring this sort of new and emerging ways that as edible gardeners that, you know, or people that are into local food that can make money from, you know, our gardens or our expertise. And in doing so, you know, really importantly, create positive impact for, you know, really, I guess it should be ourselves, our communities, and the planet too. And that's something that we're really absolutely committed to doing. So the gig economy. Well, everyone's, I guess, an increasing number of people are participating in this new sort of employment market. We're seeing it grow in all parts of the world. And I guess really it's just a trend where in many ways, so many more of us are working in part-time or fractional capacities. And it might be a case of, you know, I know when we're away that we rent our place out on Airbnb, people rent their car out, whether it's to help people get their tasks done on Airtasker or drive on the weekends as an Uber driver. There's so many ways that we can make a little bit of extra pocket money through these digital platforms. I think Airtasker in the instance of this presentation is a great example where it's really just, it's such a simple concept, helping people to get their to-do list done. And we know that gardening's a category on there, and people that are active Airtaskers within the gardening category on Airtasker, I think it's make an average of about $827 a month through participating in the platform. And that's everything from helping people with non-edible gardening relating tasks, which might be related to mowing lawns or landscaping or composting or what have you. But and I thought this was just a great example of, you know, the person for the job isn't always, the best person for the job isn't always who you think. And as someone who's relatively still kind of new to edible gardening of, you know, only in the last sort of 5 years or so, and I consider myself still to be an absolute amateur, but I found it really, really helpful that I connected with a local grower through the growitlocal.com platform when we first were setting it up. And he comes around to our place probably once a month, and we pay him a few dollars, and he's really just helped us be so successful in this space. And there's been a study done, which we'll get to in a moment, over the last 3 months, which is run by a great organisation in Melbourne called Sustain, and Dr. Nick Rose there. And they basically conducted this survey, which ended up getting, it was just under 10,000 responses to this survey. So the data set's just off the charts in its sort of, in the level of confidence, I guess, in the insights we can have that come from the data. And at any rate, some of the big insights that came out of this survey was that, of course, as we'd expect, massive increase in the volume of people that are interested in growing food in communities across Australia on the back of the pandemic. And we saw that manifest throughout the last 6 months in the form of seedlings and seeds being sold out at so many different nurseries and gardening centres and Bunnings and what have you at different points. And just lots of media coming out around this increase in people that are wanting to sort of perhaps find a little peace of mind in and resilience in the idea of, you know, they can help to feed themselves even on whatever scale that might be. But one of the big things that came out of this survey was that there's this huge appetite from the people that are new to growing to want to learn or find a mentor from other more experienced growers in their neighborhood. And that's something that we're particularly excited about. And I think there's just a huge opportunity for us to help connect people that have expertise in this space or that have active gardens, active edible gardens, with people that want to learn or people that are looking for locally grown food, or there's a number of other categories, which I'll talk you through in a second. But basically, one of the things that we stumbled upon, and sort of been working with Julian on this as well, but is that, you know, gig economy marketplaces exist in sort of almost every category and industry except for gardening. And yes, yes, gardening is a vertical of some of these other marketplaces, but there's so much more going on here now, particularly with what's been happening in the world. And just this appetite from the community and the level of interest, which we're certainly seeing through these digital sessions, and we're certainly seeing in the growth in membership in the platform too. So the community marketplace is something that we've just really put live in the last week. It's in beta. There's been no communication around it yet. There'll start to be a bit of media that we'll push out over the next sort of 4 to 6 weeks. But really, what we're looking to do is introduce this idea of the gig gardening economy, or the gardening economy. And really this idea of enabling people to make gardening their side hustle. That might be brought to life through making money by mentoring aspiring local growers, and not just getting, you know, paid to do that, but to also, you know, help inspire the next generation of growers to get active in this space. And there are so many benefits of being active in growing food at home, whether that's in your backyard, on the verge, at a local community garden, on your balcony, or perhaps even just, you know, as a windowsill farmer growing sprouts or seedlings or whatever it might be. There's appetite from chefs that we're seeing coming through to access locally grown produce to put on their menus, and for the growers to be remunerated either through cash or through access to vouchers to be used in that local establishment. But this is absolutely happening. You know, with chefs, we saw with Chez Panay, with Alice Walters in the, I think, what was it, the late 70s, when she sort of pioneered this farm to table movement. We sort of firmly believe the next iteration in this kind of space will encompass the idea of patch to plate, and the idea of having decentralized networks of growers that can connect to share, swap, sell, exchange amongst themselves and with other participants in that network, whether that's chefs or restaurants or what have you, will be really incredibly valuable. And I guess for the restaurants, give them a tool to highlight their local food philosophies and their local food credentials, and for the growers to get some bragging rights and say, hey, you know, it's Terry's tomatoes are featured on the menu at the Ducks today, or what have you, and to be remunerated for their produce too. There's opportunities where we're receiving inquiries from people every week saying, you know, I live in an apartment block in a high density area. I'm looking for a patch to grow some produce. We're seeing, you know, the trend, broadly speaking, across the country is that community gardens are in such high demand and are absolutely short on space and allotments in many cases. So there's opportunities there. And then sort of building out this idea of Australia's home for homegrown, and an opportunity for people to sell their pickles, sell their sauces, sell their jams, what have you. We'll have there's a typo there, but basically virtual gardening consultation is another opportunity for growers to monetize their skills, particularly in this period of social distancing and lockdown. And Paul will be launching that with Paul in a couple of weeks. So you'll be able to engage Paul West to provide you with input on your backyard or front yard or whatever edibles you're growing, and he'll be remunerated for his time. And yeah, that'll be a sort of via video chat. The key launch categories for this marketplace incorporate experiences and events. So as mentioned, you can jump on there and enlist an event or an experience. It could be a tour, it could be a workshop, it could be a session of some kind. You can list any home saved seeds, seedlings or plants that you might have. And we just know that there are so many active edible gardeners that are already doing this. And whether that is to share it, to sell it, to swap it, that's absolutely up to the individual. But there's a huge opportunity there as we see it. You know, this whole space, the whole nursery kind of space hasn't really been disrupted by technology at all, not in a peer-to-peer context thus far. And there's just a huge opportunity to further that. We saw through our platform, at least, when the lockdown measures were introduced, a huge number of people coming together to swap, share, trade, and exchange their home safe seeds and plants and seedlings when the stores were out of stock. So it just brings an absolute smile to your face to see that happening. Products and services, that could be in the form of offering your services as a mentor and saying you're open to teaching local growers, and you'll pop round to their place once a week, once a fortnight, once a month, and be remunerated for your time. Homegrown flowers, we've had interest from home flower growers in wanting to share or swap or market their wares, and then space too. So that currently is in existence. As mentioned, it's in version 1.0, but you can absolutely jump on there and list your stuff. Let's fly through this. This is an example of what sort of someone's patch page looks like. So this is effectively a page you can set up. You can name your patch, list what you're growing, what you're interested in connecting around, and any of those products or services that you might want to market as well. They see who and what is available in your local area. And, you know, in some of the conversations with some of the chefs that have just really got us super inspired, Rodney and Mark. And, you know, Rodney said to me a couple of weeks ago, he said, you know, and where he is in Tassie, I'm not sure if any of you have been to the Agrarian Kitchen, but if you ever get the opportunity, you must check it out. It's just such a amazing experience. And when you sit down there, on the front of the menu, it says that all of the ingredients in the that were sourced for the food that you're about to consume were harvested, foraged, hunted, gathered from a local network of community gardeners, backyard gardeners, fishermen, etc. And it's absolutely this idea, but just without a platform or a framework around it. And Rodney said to us, he said, you know, supermarkets came into essence around one sort of principally simple concept, which was convenience. But he said, you know, what would be more convenient if not in the future? You couldn't walk around your neighborhood and pick, you know, a decent chunk of the fresh produce that you need for your week, and meet and connect with the local community through the process of doing that. And we fundamentally believe that you know, we all have a role to play in this vision, and that this is absolutely where the world is headed. The sorts of examples of some of the things we've seen people doing, I just thought I'd share with you some of these examples. These are some pre-pandemic examples, but I'm sure we'll see them brought back to life once things settle down. So people opening their gardens and having produce tastings, and having plant sales and homegrown seedlings, pickling sessions, which just hugely oversubscribed. This is at a local community kitchen here in the eastern suburbs in Sydney. Their target was to have, I think, about 40 people turn up for this pickling session, and 118 people RSVP'd. Just amazing experience. Backyard beekeeping courses people were running. That's actually a local urban farming collective here in Sydney. What's another example? Community gardens running sessions that were about fundraising for their gardens, any community gardeners that are on the line, and doing so in a really sort of effective way, and not just providing a means to engage with their other members of their garden, but to also connect with the broader community. And so inviting other members of the community to come and be part of the garden and to fundraise at the same time. Here's a good example of up in Paddo, where they just had a herb propagation workshop, and again, just knowledge and skill sharing and connecting and impact. Fermentation sessions. Of course, as growers, we all have excess produce and from our harvest at different points in time, and that's just a great activity. we've been involved in some crowd farming activities. So we sort of, crowd farming is just a bit of a silly term we'd coined a couple of years back, and it was just a silly play on crowdfunding, but in this instance, not where money is raised, but produce is raised. And so this is a kind of hip ice creamery in Fremantle in Perth, and they got in touch and said, you know, we love, we're all about locally grown produce. We love, you know, grow it local. What could we do? And we said, you know, well, why don't we see what's growing in and around your ice creamery, and put the call out to the growers. And in the first week of November last year, it was largely limes that were in season. And I think we had about 18 kilos of limes that were crowd farmed from the local growers, and they made this really amazing key lime pie, grow it local ice cream, which was just delicious. And the growers got an allotment of ice creams, and the La Paletta, the ice creamery, did something different and made a bunch of noise in the press. And yeah, it was a really cool experience. Here's another example of another local grower, Casey. She's in Cottesloe on the coast there in Perth. Amazing garden, and she ran a few sessions where she invited people in her backyard, and it was a tour and tasting. That went really well. People selling their excess propagation materials, seeds, what have you. Tours with Paul, where he's just talking about the importance of growing food, and how beneficial it is for all of us as humans, and for our communities, and of course the planet. What's some other examples here? There's a seed exchange, growers coming together, share seeds. That's Clive Blasey, the founder of the Diggers Club. He's kind of like the godfather of growing food in Australia. Absolutely awesome guy. More tours and tastings. This was a church that ran a peaceful planting session. They generated some income through that, learning about how to plant. This is another crowd farm dinner with a local restaurant. So that was, I think, a 6-course degustation where all of the produce was crowd farmed through local community members. And this is the sort of thing that you can get involved in and be part of, and make money from. Pickle Nick, it seems like there's just an absolute massive uplift in pickling over the last couple of years. I'm sure we're going to see that kick back once cucumber season kicks in, probably any time around now, actually. They should be back in season sort of from October onwards. That's kind of a few examples of, this is another good example. This is a local grower that ran a long table degustation in her backyard, and it was patch to plate session. And she basically put the tickets out, and I think she had 14 strangers buy tickets. It was, $70 a pop. It was just an absolutely incredible experience. Really super cool. So that's some examples of the sort of like the different sorts of people that we're seeing getting involved. It's younger crew, it's older generation. I think that's, you know, really part of what excites us most, is just connecting those different types of people through the simple idea of knowledge and skill sharing. That's kind of that. That's really the nuts and bolts of it. But yeah, as I say, it's pretty new space. We're at the very beginning of our journey. The level of engagement so far in sort of the premise of grow it local and growing food's been really off the charts, and we're just about to turn the volume up on the marketplace elements in the next couple of weeks. So you're the first people to hear about it. It's still very much the beginning of the journey, but thanks for taking the time to tune in. Thanks, Julian. I don't think we can hear you. There you go.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Darryl. Should we stop the screen share and perhaps go to questions?
Let's do it.
If you've got questions about how this might work or examples, I mean, I've got lots of questions about things that I'm thinking might be possible to list on there, but Darryl, let's start with you guys. feel free to turn your video on so we know who we're talking to.
How about
I'll
you,
kick
Julian?
that off, Darryl.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I've developed this map called Scrumper's Delight, and it's about listing where all the fruit trees are around, just off the street, you know, hanging over people's fences.
Yes.
Is that, you know, doing like a street food tour? Is that something that I could list?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
And I guess the back of my head is, you know, how would I figure out how much to charge? And, you know, does basically all the promotion just occur on the Grow It Local site?
That's a really good question, Julian. So the way that would work is that would really be your decision. What we've seen experiences or events be ticketed from anywhere from free all the way up to around about $170. I'd say the average for community-led events and experiences around sort of 10 to 25, but there's no rules there. In terms of how it would be promoted, the platform's generating decent traffic. So through growitlocal.com, pardon me. And then there would be, we would also always encourage any of the hosts to, you know, push that through their channels as well. There are opportunities for boosted listings through our platform as well, whilst we're in our early days, as well as through our partners. So we have sort of really great relationships with the Diggers Club. So some of those on the line might know the Diggers. They're sort of, I guess, probably one of the oldest and most prestigious gardening clubs in Australia, about 80,000 members. So they're really helping to spread the word, as are ABC radio. So there's opportunities to help spread the word and drive engagement through those partner channels too.
Are you noticing that there's gaps that perhaps we could be filling?
I think one of the areas we're really super excited about is this idea of mentoring, because gardening, for anyone that's been involved in edible gardening, you know, we all know it's kind of feels like it's a lifelong pursuit just to get half decent at. It can be so challenging, and it's fraught with failure. But I guess that's how we learn. And the idea of having someone that can help guide you through the process and help you be successful and maximize the outputs of your growing activities just seems to be an absolute no-brainer. And the fact that we saw, I think it was about 35% of new growers within the pandemic gardening survey talk about they're interested in having someone to mentor them or help guide them through on their journey. It's just sort of a simple connecting the dots role here. So part of the premise is to find people that have those skills and that knowledge and that appetite to want to share their knowledge and skills with those that are seeking it. And that might be tricky in different parts of the country right now with the various measures that are in place around COVID, but there are absolutely opportunities to do that digitally. And I think this little launch with Paul in a couple of weeks around, get Paul, you can access someone like Paul to provide you a digital consultation. That's a bit of a flip on where gardening's been, and just to try and help catapult it into the 21st, 22nd century.
Fiona's got a question. Fiona?
I guess another example is, Julian, just people that are already actively running sessions, whether that's a community garden that might have sessions on a monthly basis or a fundraiser that they can be listed to help drive awareness and engagement with their activities.
Cool.
We had a session yesterday with a really big session. It was on elegant edible gardening, and we sort of seeded this idea of is anyone out there making their own pickles or their own preserves, and of course we know that there are tens of thousands of Australians that are, and that's something we're also super excited about, as well as this idea of having a centralised location through which you can access perhaps all of Australia's best marmalade, jams, pickles, sauces, what have you. Because most gardeners are active sort of in their preserving or fermenting.
I mean, I know, my mind's whirling with possibilities here, but we'd really like to hear from you, participants. What has this brought up for you?
Sort of edible gardeners do we have on the line? Maybe you can throw into the chat. Are you growing in a backyard, at a community garden, on a balcony? Is anyone growing on a verge?
Sorry, I couldn't unmute before. I've got links with a space that's available in Central Sydney for workshops. I've got connections with Transition Sydney, community gardens, and I'm part of a Inner West pickle swap group. So yeah, this sounds like perfect.
Amazing. So who's talking there? I couldn't see.
Fiona, sorry.
Hey, Fiona. Oh, that sounds absolutely awesome. How, yeah, I mean, that's just bang on. Absolutely bang on.
So how do I just contact through the website and say that I've got these available, or?
Yeah, well, what you could actually do is actually list those. So you could jump onto the site, become a member. It's a free and easy process, takes about 2 minutes. And then you could basically, list what you have that's available for either sale or for sharing. It's a really simple process. Since it launched about a week ago, pretty much every day we've seen people making purchases or connecting through it. So it's really encouraging. It seems like there's an absolutely huge appetite.
Excellent, thanks.
And Darryl, this is just simple going to cofounder.com.
Sorry about Julian, I missed that.
It's as simple as just going to growitlocal.com and start creating a free account?
Exactly right. Yeah, thanks, Julian. That's exactly right. It is. And probably the other thing you can do is just jump onto our socials. We're most active on Insta or Facebook to keep abreast of what's happening there. There's lots of sort of comms and around the festival at the minute. But yeah, that's what's growing on. There's actually a pickle session coming up with Ronnie Khan, who started Oz Harvest, and her head chef there at Oz Harvest, Travis, in November. So there's going to be a search for Australia's greatest picklers as part of that. But we'd absolutely love to see your pickles listed on the platform. Got some great comments coming in here, Julian.
And I'm thinking Melissa, she's saying that she loves the platform. It'd be really great to hear from, somebody who is using the platform, your experience of it, Melissa, if you're up for that.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Melissa.
Oh, okay, so I don't know how loud it is. I'm just curious about the patch. What that? I think that's right. What that actually means on the Grow It Local? It's got like list my patch.
Yeah, that's right. So you can basically register your patches in this in Grow It Local's language, kind of like your profile. So
Okay.
you can just effectively create a profile, and if you've got any honey that you've got there, you could list that. You could list anything really connected to this idea. So that's basically what it is.
Okay. Yep.
Are you producing much honey there?
Look, I'm just on the end of our couple of kilos left of honey, but I've got 4 hives, and I'm just about to get my 5th hive tomorrow. So yeah, and I tend to hold back on some of the honey to put it back in the hives come spring again. So I don't harvest it all. Yeah.
Amazing. And how much honey are you getting out of would you have got, say, on an annual basis out of your, say, 4 hives?
Probably 50 kilos.
Wow.
Yeah. Which has been really cool. Yeah.
That's really great. And so what do you do with that honey? Do you...
do you know what? I largely give it away.
Yeah, right.
I largely give... it's funny, at the start of this season I thought, I'm actually going to sell it because you know, obviously the on costs with beehives is fairly expensive, or can be.
Yes.
And I did sell a bit of it to start with, and then I'm a bit of a soft soul, so I just
Oh, wow. I bet you've
tended
got
to give it away to what, you know, it's sort of almost actually in a way in exchange for something else, which
awesome.
yeah, which was sort of good too. And the same thing with eggs. You know, we've just got a 3-metre Japanese maple someone was literally getting rid of this morning, and you know, I said, would you like some eggs or some honey or whatever? So it's a bit of that too. Yeah.
It's amazing. And so whereabouts are you set up there?
I'm in Wandon North in Victoria. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you've got some fruit trees there too.
Lots of fruit trees, lots of raspberries in, and lots of different things. And I mean, it's all a bit to manage, but all good though. Yeah, all good. Yeah, passion fruit. You know, just lots of things, I guess, that a lot of other people would have too. But the pickling and the fermenting, and I mean, I've got sourdough and you know, kombucha and jun and all that sort of stuff too. So I'm really interested in all of this for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And is there an appetite from your side, Melissa, in trying to, you know, if you could make a bit of pocket money from?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Yeah, amazing.
For sure. Yeah.
Do you preserve the produce from your fruit trees at times too, or is it principally?
Look, our fruit trees are pretty young. They're probably in our second, the second year this year. So we've got a plum in that we had a fair bit of fruit from, and you know, again, I just took that to work pretty much last year and gave it to a colleague at work who's right into preserving, and then she did something with it, and then I got some of it back. And so we haven't had a huge crop from any of them yet. And as somebody said, when you put fruit trees in, it's maybe for the next generation.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah.
I love it.
I think my husband nearly had a fit when he saw how many trees I was putting in, but you know, because the mowing around them is always a bit of an issue. But all good. Yeah.
That's absolutely awesome. Julian, I just realised there's something I didn't touch on, which I should share with everyone, and it's a really simple idea we've built, which is called Seeds of Purpose. And so effectively for every marketplace listing, typo there, we'll donate 100 organic edible seeds to a local or to a community garden or school. So that's something that sort of ties into our purpose and impact driven approach. So for every listing on the marketplace, that's what we will do as well. Julian, you've got I know you've got some fruit trees, don't you?
Yeah, I've got down here at the Randwick Sustainability Hub, we have a food forest.
Yes.
And so the idea behind that is actually trying to recreate more natural ecosystem type situations. So rather than just trees and then grass, we've got an understory and then a ground cover, all of edibles, and lots of diversity in there. And of course, because it's public space, people are welcome to come down and see it. It's a demonstration site. We've got people here that come down very regularly on Fridays and actually participate in the veggie growing, fruit growing, and all the workshops we run here.
Oh, that's awesome. Love it.
Open to anybody that can obviously either get here physically, or for those further. Yes, thanks. Thanks, Nikki. She's given a thumbs up. She's one of our fantastic regulars. But we also run our workshops in the afternoon, completely free on Zoom. We're just wrapping up a 10-week series on native habitat gardening, and we're about to, in Springs, so in about 3 weeks' time, start up a 10-week course on growing big and small spaces, so particularly around food production in smaller spaces, balconies, or small backyards.
Awesome. And thank you to Tanya for your comment there around Seed of Purpose. I'm glad you're enjoying that. Shout out to Tim. Thanks for sharing some information about your courtyard garden there. Sounds like a great little spot you've got going. Pots is something that I've only recently sort of the last year or so started to get active in, and I just can't believe the difference it's made, particularly with some of the herbs that we've got going here in our little backyard in Bondi Beach. But yeah, thanks for your comments there. Of course, as an idea that is still very much in its infancy, the Grow It Local concept, we love to hear from anyone that's got any thoughts or ideas about what you'd like to see brought to life. So please don't hesitate to get in touch with us if you'd have any thoughts there. I'll post a couple of links in here. So I see there's a few comments around how can you see what's happening with the festival schedule. You can simply go to growitlocal.com. Julian's great weekly sessions he runs there. And I think that's, yeah, pretty much.
In the chat now,
Yeah.
you put that yours in. And there was a good question there, I thought, Darryl, about food safety. You know, are there regulations that people need to think about if they're selling produce?
Yes, Julian, thank you for raising that. There are indeed. And you know, the best, the appropriate advice is that you need to contact your local council to ascertain the local requirements, really, in terms of food safety and handling. Unfortunately, it does vary between all different LGAs across Australia, so there's no one rule, one size fits all there. Generally speaking, when it comes to fresh produce, that is okay, but anything that's transformed from its non-fresh state, you absolutely need to explore that. I'll just post here too. Anyone that would like to get in touch with us, best to get in touch there through hello@growitlocal.com. We're about to start recruiting for a couple of roles there. If there's anyone that's interested in joining a growing team, please don't hesitate to get in touch. What's up next, Julian?
What's up next? We've got Dr. Carl pretty soon. And then
what? Amazing.
Hey, yeah. Yep. And this afternoon for you know, for us garden-oriented people, we've got Jess Perrine, who is one of the community members at the Randwick Community Organic Gardens, and she'll be doing an introduction to permaculture principles. And that's just about sold out. So I'd, if you're interested, I'd register on Eventbrite quick smart.
Amazing. Congratulations. What a fantastic program you've put together there. And so there are sessions running, Julian, throughout today and into tomorrow.
Today. Yep, today's the last day today for our program, and on the link above. And of course, after that, we've got the Grow It Local Festival that's been going, and you know, amazing program there too. So it's non-stop for all us gardeners and food lovers. But why don't we, you know, use your emojis, make some sound, something to say a really big thank you to Darryl for all the work he's done in the area and for today's workshop. Thank you.
Thanks, Darryl. Thanks, Julian.
My absolute pleasure, Julian. Thank you to you for being such a trailblazer in this space and for helping support so many people to do so many great things. Without people like you, none of this stuff can happen. So yeah, hats off to everyone that joined us today. I hope that was helpful, and yeah, there's lots of really great things to come. So stay tuned.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. Hope to see you down here. See you, everyone. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.